This debate can be won if the mechanism can give the deterrent effect to the corrupter. Before I start my argument, let's see several problems proposed by opening opposition, and it will become my rebuttal today. The first one is that they thought that impoverished is not a human way to solve the problem. Meanwhile, in the status quo, there are so many cases that corruptors always repeat and repeat again about what they have done. Let's analyze what recidivist is always exists today. We know that recidivist is an action or the condition of a criminal action. The case here is corruption actually that cannot be stopped, but it can only be done if we prevent it. It means that what is the condition in the status quo is not enough. The second layer, why I think that it's still in a human way and against the opening opposition means because the impoverishing, the corrupter, it can give the deterrent effect and become a prevention, right? But again to the status quo, punishing people doesn't make they feel deterrent. Let's take a look what has been done by the corrupter that they stole much money and resulting the painful of the society and hamper the stability, infrastructure and the welfare of the society. By impoverishing them, we want the corruptor realize that they committed the mistakes, and the impact is that they can feel how painful people because of their action, because the corruption they made. In another way, I would like to state that in media perspective, how the media coverage will increase the deterrence will increase the deterrence and create a better society. OG might say that family of the corruptor will suffer enough because of media coverage and it is pity for the family. But we are as CG, we will say that it's exactly what we want. We say in both cases, media cover-up will happen and create the effect. It will be beneficial in our side because we know that actually impoverishment is a big measure taken by the government. The government have taken so many considerations to decide the impoverishment that they would say. It can attract the media attention and creating the discourse inside our society and how media will react. The first one is that it's probably exposing the corruption and do their own journalism investigation. The second one is exposing the member of their family and it will probably creating talk show or special segment discussion of it and they will talk about more about corruption. This kind of spotlight is what we want, ladies and gentlemen. This will hype and become a trending topic and it's perfect timing to trigger the discourse about the corruption, right? Because in the end of the day, the corruptor is a bad for a human nation and deserve to live miserably. Compared to the humanic concept from opening opposition that in opening opposition, the human concept create narrative that's okay, you will need to be jailed for a certain time and you go out and you still can enjoy your life, even you can bribe the jail warden to provide you like TV, AC, message share and many more. So why not? You still have your money and power. You still have you still can use your power like just Setia Novanto did at that time. So in our side, we will demonize that the corruptor while giving massive education and how it will create betterment for the less corruption and by portraying in media, it will give the influence for people. Like some people will afraid to do the corruption, right? And then some people will understand that corruption is a really bad action for life. And then even if the corruption is very egocentric and individual driven, we create the narrative in society that the goal of CG is that we create the better anti-corruption environment that can be used as the check and balance or even giving more social punishment. So ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that all said become true and I don't think how it's going to work. Let's see what also OG talk about that impoverishing the corruptor is not making them become homeless or starving anymore. It's just like make the corruptor become a normal or a regular everyday person. So when they are impoverished, they still have a chance to live better, right? Let's see what is actually who is the corruptor. Even if they are impoverished, let's see how the privilege they have. They still have a good educational background, they still have a relation, they already have an accomplishment, they already have so many track records in their life, and then so that they can start in not a zero position and they still have a chance to live in a better way, right? So it's unlikely different with the person, or probably poor person who doesn't have that privilege, because when they are trying to applying the job, they still can state in their CV what they has been done in their life, and it will make them easier to find the job and have a chance to live better. What is missing by OG is that they miss to analyze the family is also become a causes of corruption, right? The corruptor gives them the affection because the corruptor is not only corrupt for not only fulfilling their personal needs, because they want to give their affection for the family. For the example, by letting their children to study abroad, by giving them so many things that is luxurious and so on. By impoverishing the corruptor, it will be effective way as the prevention action in order to keep their family member to not feel what is become an effect and from impoverishing. They will pain, they will suffer and live in not a good condition, right? They will start to live as a normal people. They will not spend much money for something luxury. So once impoverished can be implemented in in our country, it is a good way. And once someone will do the corruption, they will rethink again about what it will affect their family and also their personal life, right? So at the end of the day, the justification is that impoverished will become exclusive and become one way to give deterrent effect for the corruptor in order to not creating the corruption anymore. So as CG, we are going to propose this motion and we support that this house would impoverish corruptors. Thank you.
Panels. The effect of corruption is so massive that it directly affects to the country, directly affect to the people, and make the people suffering. Well, it is despicable that they enjoy the glamorous life, jewelry party every day, travels to New York, Europe every week, while they suffer to death, begging for a piece of bread in order to continue their life. They even doesn't have the chance to think about what university they want to attend, what the type of car they want to buy. Nightmares by nightmares haunt them in the line of life or death. So I will talk to you about another real example on how these evil scenes happen. Let's take a closer look on how these EKTP cases, where Setia Novanto corrupts 100 billion of money to make himself richer and affecting the distribution of EKTP. Well, this will affect to not only the access of EKTP, but also affect to the whole national system. This will definitely burden the people looking back on how importance of EKTP to accessing their essential rights. So tell us, ladies and gentlemen, who have a single dare to talk that it's unfair if we impoverish them. Panels, I want to reset back what should and shouldn't be talked about in order to achieve the main point of clashes of today's debate, which whether a certain approachment will solve the problem, and which is the rising of corruption will solve the how it curtain certain regulation will create a deterrent effect at the end of the day. So, before I start my main speech points, I would like to portray what the opposition side of the House responses to the problem and explain to you why our side is better in tackle down the problem. So, the main layer is about the approachment methods, right? So, the opposition side of the House champion the idea that this mechanism, that they think that it is inhumane way since it makes them suffer and traps them in a never-ending cycle of poverty. Well, under our side of the House, we have explained to you that their metric is not exclusive since they only portray them only based on what they have lost, right? So while under our side, we already proved to you that how this actor is still have the privilege to begin with, and their parameter of suffer only happen when they don't have anything. Meanwhile, these actors still have their life power to do, right? For the example, their educational background, connection, achievement, and so on and so forth. And how this privilege doesn't label them as an eternal suffocation, where we say at the end of the day, they will recover anyway. So, moving to my extension of arguments, here I have one point that we have mainly discussed about how this mechanism will directly solve the problem. If we take a comparison on how the mechanism proposed by the opposition side of the house, that they champion the idea that rehabilitation is more human way, that it will also create a more progressive condition at the end of the day. But we say that rehabilitation doesn't have a deterrent effect. Why? Because in their narrative, the character only thought about what is right to do and just rehabilitate them, and there is a chance them to redo this kind of condition. Why? Because the corruption still have the resource to access their power, and the power is still there, right? They still have the money, they still have the connection at the end of the day, and at the very least, under our side of the house, the process of making them regain their power is harder to achieve. Why? Because they don't have money to do it to begin with, to bribe people. And other than that, the media exposure also holds them to regain trust. And under their side of the house, the trust is still easy to gain because society, at the very minimum, still recognize them eligible because they think that they've been rehabilitated because since they have been rehabilitated, the outcome that they think that they have gone back to the right path. While under our side of the house, they will never going to be happen, and we will not going to let this corruption spring out again at the end of the day. So other than that, the justification point, exactly like what the government goal, which is to give the full coverage of media to their relatives. Why? Because we think that the relatives have also played the role of how they enjoy this crime, right? Like they enjoy the benefits from it. And to think of it, they should have known in the very first place, it's abnormal that they have $1 billion of money, meanwhile they know their salary is standards, right? This is an approval that they also supports the crime, and it is at the end of the day is justified to also make them suffocate at the end of the day. So here, other than that, and on how the corruption happens is because of the factor of omission, meaning there's no structural difference created inside the circle of corruptors and potential corruptors, right? How so? Let's breaking down this condition. Even if corruption happens, we still can see that the infrastructure building is still there, right? People still get bansos to survive as if nothing happened. Although to the fact that the government is still trying until their last drop of blood to run the system. Meanwhile, the corruptor live heavenly in their mansion as if nothing happened at all. Just imagine the progressivity of social justice if there is less money corruptor. The amount of bansos money can increase, more food with more sustainable material will be built, and more people can be live in a more proper condition. This corruptor never know nor want to know this kind of suffering of people that dying every day because they can't afford meal or don't know how scary it is for a pregnant woman that can't do a cesarean procedure due to the lack of access of the road. So based on that, we believe that the corruptor deserve to live in impoverishment, to understand the harm that they have caused, to reflect that they did is also inhuman and creating other people's impoverishment. So, based on that, ladies and gentlemen, it is come into a conclusion that how this mechanism will definitely create a deterrent effect and portray them as a demon and public enemy that will create a constructive impact where check and balance happen and lessen the rise of the corruption at the end of the day. By this point, ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to say that we have a better framing and a better solution compared to OG and prove to you that this approachment impoverish them is better deterrent effect from them compared to what opposition offer to you, that at the end of the day the never-ending cycle of crime will always happen. And now back to the question: do you still think it is still unfair? Thank you.